Yeah, that's right, Dan. Christina, there are two notes from the VA Dems. So one letter addressed to Attorney General Mark Herring asks him to investigate the fraudulent signatures. Now, the other is to the State Board of Elections, asking to remove independent candidate Shaun Brown's name from the general election ballot. So we reached out to Congressman Taylor's team for a statement, and he said in part, quote, "We agree that problematic signatures should be invalidated, but we think it's inappropriate and offensive for the National Democratic Party to hijack a local primary election and marginalize a qualified African American with local support in order to clear the way for their hand-picked candidate," end quote. Now, Taylor's Democratic opponent, Elaine Luria, released a statement saying in part, quote, "I'm glad to see the Commonwealth's attorney is taking these allegations seriously and requesting a special prosecutor who will work to protect the integrity of our election process," end quote. Now, the VA Dems say they have 17 affidavits from people whose names were falsified on the petition. 13 News Now has been investigating the allegedly forged names since last week. Now, some of those signatures included a state delegate, a woman living in Nevada, and a man who passed away before he could have signed it. Now, we also learned that Shaun Brown submitted more than 2,000 petition signatures to the State Department of Elections. So more than half of those signatures were not approved for various reasons, and that includes being illegible. So Brown released a statement to us saying in part, quote, "We are taking our fight to the street for the people of the 2nd Congressional District. It is about kitchen table issues and voting rights that get rid of the at-large vote dilution system for minority voters in Virginia Beach," end quote. Now, Taylor says he fired both his campaign manager and consultant over allegations of forged signatures on petitions gathered by staff on his campaign. So a judge appointed a special prosecutor to investigate those signatures, and Taylor says his office will cooperate. Ashley Smith, 13 News Now. Back to you.